Jeff is back to interviewing artists and writers on Everything is Awesome. He and his guests cover social issues from a leftist perspective. Check out all his many works at jeffsawesomepods.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. It's going to be real cheerful. Yep. Really cheery. Roe v. Wade might be overturned, but you know what's not overturned? My attitude. This is Unspoiled, a song of ice and fire too. The co-host switcheroo. The re-rating. Return to Westeros. HBO spoiler edition. Uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. Bringing you the greatest hits from the year 2000. Call in with your requests now, as long as it's not a request for women's health care. In this episode, we're covering chapters 32 and 33, Tyrion and Samwell. In these chapters, Tyrion decides to kill a singer. I think we've all wanted to do that at some point in our lives. And then shit goes down at Craster's Keep. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
You know who else didn't have women's reproductive justice?
Oh my God. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm tired.
I am also tired.
So sad. I don't want any of this, y'all. This is
not the reality I signed up for when I agreed to be a living being.
A living being.
Right.
Allegedly.
This is on some fine print shit at the bottom. I checked that terms. And, I agreed to the terms without reading. I did every website and app you install. You
God
just check
damn
that
it.
shit. Yeah, and that was fucking a real short-sighted on my part.
You guys, there is... So, I sent Rashawn, if you guys haven't already, and I don't know how long will have passed by the time this goes up, if it's enough for The Onion to change what they've done. But I sent Rashawn to The Onion's site so that she could read some of the wonderful headlines that they've got going on right now. And one of them that I don't think you got all the way down to, Rashawn, was vessel for male sexual gratification feeling very sad today.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
And I was just like... Yo,
Holy
you
shit.
don't need to just go for it like that, guys. Like, ouch, I felt it. So
I think this came up with me and you talking privately. I don't remember if it was a private conversation or on one of the podcasts, but I've been doing a rewatch of King of the Hill, and one of the running jokes is Hank's dad hates Hank's wife Peggy.
okay.
And he only calls her Hank's wife. Like, he'll talk to her face and call her Hank's wife.
Oh my God.
And you know what? That's what's happening, y'all. We're all being reduced to, like, who we are in relation to whatever man is in our fucking life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And don't bring up The Handmaid's Tale. We know that's a thing. It's fine. Just don't.
Please stop.
Just please stop.
Please stop with that. Just if you're listening to the podcast, if you've been listening to us for a while, if you know me at all, if you trust me, if I've ever said anything on this podcast that made you think about a thing differently, especially in regards to race in this world, please listen to me when I tell you, stop doing that. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to know why you should stop doing that, I recommend finding some black women in your social media spaces, because there are plenty of them that are talking about why that is not the move. Mm-hmm. So that's canceled.
TikTok is rich with takes from intelligent women who lay that shit out in terms that are undeniable. Highly recommended. Go to TikTok. People talk shit about TikTok all the time.
Listen,
I am sick of hearing it. It's great. Stop it.
It is amazing. It is doing a lot of real fucking heavy lifting and parsing complicated things down with nuance and a level of honesty, quite frankly, that I don't see in a lot of other places. Mm-hmm. And also, they have a lot of really fun dance videos and lots of really funny parody videos and outstanding puns.
Also, cats. You guys, if you are into cats, I can't tell you how much you're missing out if you are not on the old TikTok, because people's cats just be out here doing shit. And it is pretty fun. So, I know I have talked shit about TikTok, but that was the past is the past. I've learned and I've grown and I've gotten accustomed to how videos just start playing as soon as you open the app. And no, I still don't like it. But That's
kind of like the whole point of this. Like, it's just going to do what it's going to do.
I just want to be able to press play, to say, okay, go.
Nope.
But I can't do it.
Opening the app is all the consent it requires.
That's exactly it. 100% it. Yep.
It doesn't need you. It doesn't need any additional participation.
It's just
from
like,
you.
Yeah, but you're here though, so I feel that's done.
The tagline should just be, "Bitch, you know what this is. You know what we do out here."
Oh God. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. It's just, the news is going to be flavoring all Unspoiled episodes for the foreseeable future in a way.
It always.
Well, I was going to say in a way that, like, previously, I think that I had been quite outspoken already. You have not heard it yet. So strap in, boys and girls, because I understand that we all need an escape sometimes, and if that's what Unspoiled has been to you, it won't be. A little bit, it won't be. Just like a drop, it won't be. So I acknowledge, but also sometimes the thing that we need is for people to see us and address the fact that there is fucking insanity and not act like that's not happening. Mm-hmm. And that's where I come in. So hopefully you guys can all appreciate that.
Right, and I just, like, you're just going to have to go elsewhere for your gaslighting. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get it here. We are not going to pretend like the world is not actively trying to fall apart around us.
Yep.
And we're going to enjoy our media that we cover. And, y'all going to get these jokes. But you're also going to get us saying burn all this shit to the fucking ground, because it's bullshit.
And I know that that's, like, something that people will say, and they're just like, haha, metaphorically. No, literally, we should be burning buildings down. That's what should be happening. I'm going to go on record, and my little FBI agent who's tracking everything I say, add that to my fucking file, friend, because I mean that shit. I mean it.
Yeah.
And I can, because I can get arrested and it will not affect my job prospects. So I'm just going to lean into the fact that I can say whatever the fuck I want.
I can't wait till I can say whatever the fuck I want. One day that I, too, can enjoy that lifestyle.
I just like to think of myself as your, like,
lifestyle.
Remember that bit on Key and Peele where Obama had his anger translator?
Yes.
I'll be that for you. You can't say it, I'll say it. I got you.
Just know I'm fucking thinking it with my whole chest.
Mm-hmm. Indeed,
right.
Indeed.
All right. But you know who else has got problems?
Flawless transition. Wow. Can't see those seams one bit, kids. That's amazing. Oh my God. Truly. You know who's also got problems? sorry. Oh, okay. Yep. No, who, Rashawn? Who's got problems? To whomst are you referring?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was trying to segue into Tyrion, but... Oh, Lord.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's start off with Tyrion, first of all, looking at all of the poor people who are, like, making their meager lives up against the walls and looking at them going, they all hate me. They want to kill me. But you know what? We should definitely burn their houses down because they're too close to the wall. And I'm like, look, Tyrion, I understand, like, tactically what you're saying, but also, fucking don't, dude. Just don't. I have no patience for you right now. Stop it.
The way he pulls that 180 on those fucking kids.
Yep.
He goes from, oh, those babies might hurt themselves to fuck them kids in, like, 0 seconds.
Yes. Yeah, they chuck some dung at him. And it doesn't even land on him. It lands in front of him, and he's
but
just
that was enough. That's it. Fuck them. I hope they smash their heads open like melons. It's fucking so harsh.
But honestly, as much as I don't appreciate who it's directed at, I understand that feeling and that just sudden, like, you know what? Fuck them then. Fuck them. Fuck them.
Listen. I have my, those fuck them kids moments. They are a real thing. Yes. Those moments come for all of us. But I really laughed at how quick he turned though, because it was just like, yeah, it's just, again, already making it political. It just feels like so on brand, for some fucking rich asshole to come down to the poors and pretend to have all this goddamn compassion. And the second that we're, quote, uncivil, we boo them in a restaurant or whatever the fuck. Yep. And it's, I hope you crack your fucking head open like a melon, like that fast.
They're protesting outside his home? This is sick and twisted. And you guys are animals? Yeah.
You've gone too far. Disturbing their meal? We cannot abide that.
Oh my God. So, I'm sorry guys, I'm having trouble focusing.
So, alright. So, him and Bronn are on this tour. This is a fact-finding mission. They need to see the state of the city, because they need to shore up defenses. They got to figure out what's going on, what needs to be rebuilt, what needs to be torn down. And Tyrion is using this opportunity to also have this sort of clandestine meeting with this, what's his name? Something Silvertongue?
Simon Silvertongue.
Bitch, if I hadn't stopped and asked what his name and just followed what I was thinking in my brain, I would have called that motherfucker Sam Silvertongue. Because that is the only name that popped in my head.
I like it because it's like a little disrespectful.
So that is like, that ends up happening sort of underneath this whole mission that he's on with Bronn. And Tyrion is feeling, as usual, unappreciated, by the low and the high, and has this meeting. Now, I'm going to admit to everyone that I know he went to visit this guy earlier in the book, or earlier in the series at some point, but I cannot remember what the interaction was between him and Simon. Can you remind me? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe you don't remember either.
I can't. Yeah. Look, I'm just gonna be straight with everybody. My brain has fried out over the past week and a half. I don't know what happened, but I have been caught out forgetting obvious shit on some other stuff, not just on this show, but also on this show. Yes. And I straight up think that my brain broke somewhere. So, if I am getting things wrong, feel free to tell me. Feel free to remind us. But just have compassion for the fact that it is a miracle for me that I'm on this mic right now.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there that as much as my job can feel really whipped cream and easy and fun, and it can be, there is even a limit for this. And I have reached it, and I am just barely getting by. So, apologies for not remembering the last time that he talked to Simon Silvertongue. I think that he might have gotten some information about Cersei from him, but honestly, I can't even recall.
All right. Well, it is neither here nor there.
Indeed.
In this moment, because this man is threatening Tyrion with a song, which I kind of am here for. It feels very like rat beef battle-ish, kind of, you know.
That did not occur to me, but oh my God, perfect.
You know, like, and especially because at one point towards the end, he's just straight up like, you know, I know a bunch of great songs, you know, great songs, real crowd pleasers, but I'm working on this new jam. And I could sing that shit too. And it's all basically about outing Shay.
Yes.
So I feel like maybe when we met I almost called him Sam again.
Call him Sam. That's what he deserves.
I think maybe he might have been at the fucking brothel. The you know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. I think maybe he might have been there when we met him before, but I don't remember exactly. But he knows, and he's threatening Tyrion with this. So Tyrion is going to pay him to go on tour.
I cannot.
And the guy is like, that'd be great, but you know what would be awesome? I'd like to sing at the wedding. Because there's going to be like a crazy gift, which is like Tyrion has got a pocket full of gold, and this guy is like, but they're going to have a silver harp though. Mm-hmm. And
gilded with silver strings.
But like, it's gold though versus your silver. So clearly, it's more than just the money for him. It's being recognized.
It's a record deal,
you know. Yeah, right. He wants to go and perform for the big dogs, and he's got a lot of shady shit to say about the people that have already been invited, and he's also like really offended that he didn't get an invitation in the mail to the fucking king's wedding, which the audacity, I guess, to be like, why didn't I get invited to the king's wedding? but
I can't. He's talking about 77 courses and all of it. Because, like, at first, Simon's like, well, you could just, like, throw me up on there, on that poster there as a feature. And he's like, but that throws all the numbers off.
Yeah, they've got this whole 7 theme for the wedding.
Mm-hmm. And so he's like, well, you know, maybe something might happen to somebody.
Somebody might get sick. Mm-hmm. You know, people are, you know, they get a little cough, a little sniffle, you know, a little fucking knife in the throat. It can happen to anybody super casual. Like, you know.
A little fucking knife in the throat. Oh, what a shame. How'd he die? Knife to the throat. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrion agrees that he will make it so that, because the other thing is like, dude, it's like, you just add me and it throws off the numbers, right? It can't be 8. Mm-hmm. And then he suggests like somebody gets, you know, is unavailable, and then 6 would be just as unacceptable as 8. And so Tyrion is basically like, yeah, I'm gonna work something out. We can make that happen,
right?
And then leaves and tells Bronn, I'm gonna need you to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I need it to be done post-haste, and I just need to make sure that he's never found. And Bronn makes a joke about eating him, which too far.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
You're right, it's not a joke.
It is a reality.
It's like the people that make Brown are always looking for meat. They don't ask any questions. And Tyrion is just like, please remind me to never, ever, 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 ever eat them.
Yeah. This is one of those things, too, the way that the interaction goes and the way that it's written, I get the impression that, like, what Martin was doing was having it look like Tyrion was going to go along with what Simon said, and it was annoying him, but he was going to do it. And then Simon just had to fucking push his luck one last time and be like, remember that I just remember, okay, I could fuck you out. And so Tyrion is like, you know what? You're just being a little bit too, like, remindy about that. I feel like I am never going to get away from this, so I'm just going to do myself a favor.
And Tyrion thinks to himself, too, that this man is acting so bold is because he's basically drunk. And that's another problem, because it shows that this man, once he starts drinking, can't be trusted to mind his fucking tongue. And it's just a liability that Tyrion cannot have out in the world. And then on top of that, then to your point, just continues to badger Tyrion with the threats of sharing this information if he doesn't get what he thinks he deserves or whatever it is he wants. So yeah, he really does sign his own sort of death warrant in this interaction. Like, it did not have to go this way, and he just insisted that it did.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, the whole concept of blackmail. Like, you really have to be confident that the person you're dealing with isn't the type that is just going to wipe you out because you admitted you know something.
Yeah.
You know, like, that is a very tricky line. You know, there's like that joke in one of the Batman movies where Morgan Freeman is like entertaining this dude who says, well, I know who Bruce Wayne really is. So unless he wants to, like, have that information all over the place. And Morgan Freeman's character is like, okay, let me get this straight. You think that my boss is a vigilante who goes out and just kills people and, like, you know, can basically fly practically with the gadgets he's got. And your plan is to blackmail him? Good luck. And the guy basically, like, turns very pale and just excuses himself, and we do not hear from him again.
Yeah. It's really a great moment, because you're right about the blackmailing someone. You have to be certain that the person you're blackmailing wouldn't cross a certain line. But I don't know. In my opinion, that's a real risky proposition.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're blackmailing someone, that means you're trying to leverage something against them that could cause them great harm. And when you back people into corners like that, it's very difficult, I think, to predict what they will do. So yeah, I'm always low key like, wow, blackmail? That's what? Word? Like, oh, okay, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, it always feels to me like, you know, even if it's somebody that you really think would never, it depends on what kind of, like, might be something going on in their life that this information would in particular completely ruin, that you might not even be aware of, that would cause a desperation you don't think it would. I am just, look, this is why I don't do wild shit, because I have too many, well, but what if this in my head, you know? And I can't turn that voice off.
You have to have, like, a real sort of, like, ability to handle a lot of risk when you engage in this behavior and others as well. Like, you know, your ability to manage high risk has to be really impressive.
Yes.
I want to mention... sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's interesting to me that he thinks Tyrion isn't a risk. This man is from the royal family and was hand and created a chain to lock a bunch of fucking ships so that they would all burn to death. What do you think? Why do you not think this man is going to, like, you know?
Why are you underestimating him?
And I think it might just be because he's a dwarf.
You know what? Maybe.
I think that's a big part of it.
That's very interesting. Yeah, because it's hard to imagine this guy pulling the same bullshit with, say, Jaime. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Who is also somebody who has information that could definitely, you know, be used for blackmail. I feel like he's not going to step to Jaime in this way. Never in a million years. Like, soon as he opens his mouth to threaten, Jaime is going to just take his whole fucking head off. And this guy would absolutely know that, so he wouldn't even bother trying. But he doesn't have the same respect or fear, probably fear is better than respect, of Tyrion. So he's like playing these games. He about to find out though.
Yep.
I wanted to mention too that this chapter opens with them going, into the city, down to the gate and everything. But there's a little bit of talk internally with Tyrion about his marriage.
Yep.
And he is frustrated, and he still has not had a chance to fuck Sansa, and he's feeling a real way about it, even though he has proclaimed that he is willing to wait and that he would wait graciously. He is already starting to feel salty that they haven't fucked yet. And he is deeply wounded by how repulsed she is by him and the prospect of being with him physically. And he is going back and forth rather, between she's still just a child and God, I really want to fuck her, and also I want Winterfell, and you know what, I want to have a kid. And but I want her to be happy, and I want her to come to me willingly, and I want to bring her joy, and it's a lot going on in his little fucking head about this little girl that he's been married to. And he's also, and it comes up later when he's with his father, it comes up very clearly, but he's also kind of embarrassed because the whole kingdom seems to be aware that they haven't fucked yet, and he feels like he's being laughed at and mocked. And he's heard, he says he's heard people kind of snickering about it, and he's trying to figure out how everybody knows that they haven't had sex yet. And he's thinking it might be Cersei, because all of Sansa's ladies that help her are all like basically employees of Cersei. And he's also kind of thinking it's Varys as well. So he's feeling like attacked, he's feeling mocked, he continues to feel like everyone is ungrateful, that he's not getting the respect he deserves, and he's also in this new role as Master of Coin, and that comes up later too when he's talking to Tywin. It comes up a little bit clearer, but he basically is like, Peter left this is shit.
Yeah.
Like, there is no money, we are so in debt, this wedding is about to bankrupt us. And meanwhile, Peter is off like fucking Lysa and about to rule the Vale, and how like unfair that is as well. So Tyrion is really feeling put upon by practically everyone everywhere. And it's just bitter, this chapter.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Sansa and how it transitions from like, yeah, I want to fuck her, but also I want her to like come to me with her fears and her, and it's all really about, I want love. I want somebody who loves me. I want a relationship with a person who respects me and sees me as a fucking partner and a person. Yep.
And that moment later when he sees Shay, and he is actually, well, it's not later, it's later in the chapter, but it happened already. We find out he had gone to see her to let her know he was going to be married, so she didn't hear it like just in the news or whatever. And it turns out she already knows, because you cannot. If you know what, this is an aside, but this is so true, and for me especially, in my experience, I work. You guys know I talk about my job, but I work in a corporate setting, and the way information is handled, it's very tight-fisted. However, you cannot keep secrets in places like this. So the rumors at my job are always flying.
Yeah.
Always, always, always flying. And they have a fairly high rate of accuracy. So when he sees Shay to warn her about the wedding, she already knows, because all the small folk that spend their whole, it's the other thing too, I'm all over the place, but we've talked before about how rich people tend to not even see their servants. Right?
Yep.
They don't see them as real people. So she's able to get this information because there are servants who are in earshot of these conversations, and then it trickles down. But my original point about bringing Shay up in this moment is that Tyrion is upset and like hurt / offended that Shay is not more distraught that he is marrying someone else.
Yeah.
Because her reaction is, I don't care, marry her and knock her up. It don't have to change nothing about what me and you do. And he's low-key kind of like, well, she should be, like, sobbing that I'm marrying someone and not her. And it brings into stark relief for him the kind of, this is another example of the relationship her and I have not being real. Mm-hmm. Which, to me, really supports what you say about this moment when he's talking about all the things he wants from Sansa and also the things he wants for her are really, really about him lacking and sort of missing the fact that he doesn't have a air quotes true love relationship. Someone that sees him and wants him in a real way. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad, honestly, because it's like it doesn't feel like a lot to ask, but considering what this world is and who he is and what he is, it does look like that's probably never going to be in the cards for him. And it's just a bummer, man.
Yeah. And it's, it's funny because I'm thinking now, obviously, I have to think more about the show, but I'm wondering, we had a lot of we had some unrequited love scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. From the show. The most striking, that jumps in my mind is obviously Jorah, right? But there's the idea of searching for quote unquote real love isn't really a theme for these books.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
You have Jorah who desperately wants to be with Daenerys, and you have Tyrion, in his desires to be loved in a real way. You have Cersei and Jaime who love each other, but that's very different. That's not a situation where they are searching for love. They already have what they have, mm-hmm. right?
And they fell into it from childhood, so they don't know mm-hmm. what it's like to not have that.
Exactly. So Tyrion really kind of stands alone in this way. At least from the show. Again, there's 2 more books that I haven't read. I think there's only 5, right? This is 3.
Yeah.
So, that may come up for some other characters, but I think of Jon Snow, and I think of even Sansa herself. Her search and longing for love was very much as a child mm-hmm. and sort of fantasy.
Yeah.
It was not a thing for Arya. It wasn't a thing really for any other characters. So Tyrion is, special in that way. And I'm curious if the choice for Martin was conscious. Did he choose the character that is most unlovable by appearance sake and make him the one character that seems to be longing for love the most, or if that was just sort of happenstance,
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, because I don't see any of the very beautiful characters that we've been introduced to longing for love in the way that we see Tyrion.
That's true. And it's also interesting because, Tyrion, one could argue, in the fact that he has so much compassion and intelligence, is one of the more lovable people when you're inside his head. Mm-hmm. But mm-hmm. He's clearly not going to be given a chance by anybody, and so it makes it all the more sort of infuriating to read. His whole sense of being unappreciated after everything that he did is right on. Mm-hmm. He is dead right about that. Nobody is giving him credit for any of the shit that he pulled off.
Yep.
And there's a very clear reason for it.
And he comes out of this thing that he's accomplished, right? This his highest moment. He comes out of that not only unrecognized for what he did, but he comes out even more disfigured.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's definitely a hard pill to swallow for him, I imagine.
Tyrion.
Yeah. So after he meets with old Silvertongue and decides to have him murdered and made into stew. he gets back home and he's fucking tired and he's dirty and he just wants to take a bath and go to bed. And honestly, same.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets summoned to go see his father. And yeah, Dad's got some fancy new blades made.
Yeah, he do.
Very, very exciting time.
Yeah, a blade for his grandson and his son, but not like his other son.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But you brought your other son to come and see these.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wanted to make sure he got to see all this. Now, here's
So
my question.
Sorry, he just is
So, Joffrey, these swords are made from, because he doesn't tell Tyrion where he got the steel from, in this chapter at least, right? But I thought that Joffrey already had a sword from Valyrian steel because he took Ned's.
I don't think ice is Valyrian steel.
Oh, I just assumed, I thought it was. I thought all the big fancy swords that belonged to the great houses, I just kind of thought they all were.
I may be wrong about it. I'll look into it.
No, I mean, yeah, I trust your...
You shouldn't.
I shouldn't.
You really should not.
But yeah, now that you mention it, I'm thinking, like, why would the North have a sword of Valyrian steel? Maybe some of the southern houses that makes more sense, but would the North have one? But yeah, I really don't know. But so I don't know where Tywin got this from. I imagine
Nope, it is Valyrian steel. Yep.
Oh, was it?
You were right.
Oh.
So that might be where he got it from.
That is so rare that I'm right about shit like that.
Look, this is why I told you not to trust me, like, outright. There have been times in my life where I have felt like you can. Now is not one of those times.
I appreciate your transparency, ma'am.
Just going to be real with y'all.
So I couldn't remember if I was conflating show stuff with book stuff, because I remember there's a whole bit where he shows it off to Sansa.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember if that happens in the book, and then this is Tywin giving him a new sword. But I'm thinking maybe that doesn't really make sense. So this is probably what's going on here. But Tywin didn't answer him when Tyrion is like, where'd all this come from?
He's so cagey.
He really is cagey, and sometimes for no fucking reason, because just say it.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
it's
like,
it's you and your son in this room right now. Like, just fucking say it. What's the fucking problem? But he's such a withholding bastard,
mm-hmm.
and I can't imagine the trauma of living and being raised by one Tywin Lannister. Like, he just seems toxic as fuck in all the worst ways. Just, you know. I mean, he's brilliant, you know, and incredibly scary and strategic and strong and all of that shit. But as a dad,
mm-hmm.
No, thank you. No, thank you. And I'm curious how he was as a husband. I know he seemed to think he was very good as a husband, and he loved his wife so much that when she died, he had to blame his actual son for her death because he loved her so much. But in my experience, people who handle things like that, what they think is love is not really love.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually an interesting thing, too, because I was on Hard Choices with Megan, Bob, and Miles. And Hard Choices is a podcast where you rank the fuckability of fictional characters. And we did Game of Thrones. And we talked about how we thought Tywin probably was a real, like the kind of man that's going to have you naked but keep all his clothes on type. But in, like, a hot way. Like, probably it would be very hot. But you'd also afterwards just be like, all right, I'm going to go. Because you're, like, really kind of scary, actually, in life. But, yeah, I'm curious if that is what he was like with his wife. Or if that is just, you know, how he'd be with me, for example. As just some bitch. So...
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good question, because we don't really see him around people he loves. Like, we see him around Tyrion, who he can't stand. We see him around Cersei, who he does not respect. And the only person that you get the sense he really cares at all about is Jaime. And we haven't seen them together, I don't think, one time.
And what he seems to love about Jaime, and that makes Jaime the only one that's worth anything, clearly just seems to be the way in which Jaime reflects Tywin back to himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not really about who Jaime is as a person. It's about how strong he is and how talented he is, and the fact that he's, you know, is the heir, and that is what his value is. It doesn't really seem to be much about, like, if you ask Tywin low key, like, what you love about Jaime? You know, what's that one thing you really love about him? Like, I'm 100% sure that anything he said would not have to do with anything that makes Jaime who he actually is.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that he would just argue with you about using the word love to begin with.
You know what? Yes, that feels right.
He'd just be like, I'm proud of my son. Love is a woman's feeling.
That is 100% right. You're absolutely right. And, you know, living under that pressure is what drove and what drives Jaime to be the kind of person that he is. You know, it's the reason he has, like, the ability to be cruel enough to throw a child out of a window.
Yep.
When threatened, but also kill a king because the man has clearly lost his mind and is about to murder everybody, you know? The weight of living under his father's expectations. Like, everything about Jaime is like, simultaneously, like, trying to refute who his father wants him to be, and also be, like, who his father wants him to be at the same time. And it's just nothing but conflict, like, internal conflict. Which I guess is another reason why Cersei is, like, his fucking... what do you call it? Like, the thing that grounds him, and is the only thing that matters, is because that is when that's the only time he feels like he could be himself.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But yeah, so he goes to see his dad, and his fucking Tywin is talking about how we don't have no money, and Tyrion is like, yeah, I know, I've been saying. And he's like, Tywin is just like, you're going to find the gold or you'll be out of a job.
This is so...
this is not helpful.
Nope.
She just going to find the gold, like fucking Trump trying to find however many votes he thought he needed to overturn the election.
I didn't even put that together, but that's exactly it. I can't believe I didn't make that connection. But yeah, this is like, clearly he is just setting his son up for an impossible job because he wants him to fail, and that's what it is, you know? Yeah.
Tyrion is even trying to be like, well, let's like tone the wedding down a little bit. And Tywin is just absolutely not. And he says, you know, we need the show, we need the demonstration, we have to show everybody that the Lannisters and, you know, are still the best to ever do it kind of energy.
Yep.
You know, and even though, and I love that, I think that his insistence on that is partially about pride and making like a big show just to show how strong they are and everything. But also, I like that you're saying that he low-key knows that this is putting Tyrion in an impossible position.
Yeah.
And is unwilling, because Tywin is very smart, and he knows that this is a giant expenditure of money and resources that they cannot afford. He's smart enough to know that. And yet, it doesn't change his decision. So you got to be like, all right, well, what's this decision really about then?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, all right. So we've got a couple of blades that have been made. We've got a conversation about the wedding overall, and him just being like, the Tyrells need to see that we are a power and we still have everything under control, and it's not, you know, it's not pressing us at all to host something this huge. And then it comes up how he offered Cersei as a bride.
Yes, to Willis, and they were like, nah.
Yep. Yeah, he said that initially Mace seemed to be like down, and then he came back the next day and was like, nope. And he's just like, it was that fucking Queen of Thorns ruining my shit. I need to get her out of the picture here because she is just always going to be against us.
He says she hectors Mace or whatever his name is. And that is an expression I feel like I heard lifetimes ago and haven't heard since. Hectors. And I wanted to like take a minute to Google that to just be like, what the fuck? Because it's such a weird turn of phrase.
It's just like harasses, right? Like
yeah, kind of almost, and not just harassing, but it has a little bit of like henpecking energy.
Henpecking, okay.
And heckling, but also it feels to me, and I might be wrong, but it feels to me like it is something you say specifically for when it's a woman that is sort of haranguing a man and sort of like dominating a man in a way that is unseemly.
Gotcha.
But I could be misreading that, you guys. So if I'm off base, welp. But that's what it felt like when I read it. Oh my god, I love the two swords that are made do sound beautiful.
Yeah, it's that Valyrian steel with the ripples, but it's like red.
Yeah, because Tywin wanted like some flash of red in it for fire, and the armor could not quite get it right. And he says that it felt like the steel just kept drinking it in. Like all the color you tried to put in it was just absorbing it. And I think it's Tyrion. It might have been Tywin, but one of them is just like, there's probably not another one that looks like this in the world.
Yeah.
I just thought that was
like, I'm really sorry. I know you wanted like crimson, and Tyrion's like, low key, this is way more intimidating. The crimson would look cool, but this feels sinister and threatening. I like this better.
Who isn't it? Tywin? It says something like Stannis has got that fucking flaming sword bullshit. So we needed to get Joffrey something, sort of equivalent.
Yes. I love that as much as, like, Tywin is a very practical, action-focused guy, he is super, like, envious a lot of the time. And it's not really, like, an ego thing exactly. It's, like, definitely, it's not an ego thing, but it feels like it's an ego that is so much more removed from him personally. It's an ego connected to his house, and so it feels like somehow bigger. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's really interesting because it's clearly like he has this sword and people won't stop talking about the fucking sword. So now I guess we have to deal with the fact that we need a sword that people are also going to talk about. And it's like, it's not really like, oh, people think his sword is so great. Well, I'll get a sword and they'll talk about mine. Yeah, it's not like that.
It doesn't. It's not like you said. It's not really personal.
Yeah.
It's not personal to him as an individual, but it's personal to him as his house, like you said. And I like Tywin is like, Tywin would scroll through your feed and not say a word but laugh react all these.
Oh my god.
Posts.
See, I'm not sure I agree with that. Because okay, you know what Tywin would do? He would have a burner account and laugh react you. He wouldn't sully his own account.
But he would have a burner.
But he would definitely be in there. It would just be that he wouldn't know he was in there,
Oh my god.
He would set some shit up where somebody comments something real sketch, like in the circle, and it's like, well, I heard you never went to Europe, so how do you explain this photo? And he would say that to you on his burner, and then he would come on his real account and be like, it's come to my attention that some of my close friends are fake as fuck. And it would just sound like it was completely justified. He is so annoying. I said it once, I'll say it again. Tywin, I love you. I hate you.
I love, too, there's this moment when Tyrion first walks in and he's like, oh, so everybody's getting one but me? That's cool. Real cool. And his dad is like, there's 1 million daggers laying around this bitch. Just Robert had 1 billion of them. Just go grab one.
That's not the point, Dad. Ugh. You don't get it.
His interactions with Tyrion are so frustrating, but also like so good to read. It is a real exercise in just barely concealed derision between a father and son.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, just barely, like, even saying barely concealed is being generous. It's there. It's palpable. Tyrion keeps trying to get his father to acknowledge it and admit it, and most days his father doesn't give him the satisfaction of engaging around it. We've seen 1 or 2 times where his dad has lost his shit, usually surrounding the whores and Shay.
Right, yeah.
We see with that's enough to push Tywin over the edge. But generally, he just stays so remote and distant. And anytime Tyrion tries to, bring up the fact that you treat me like shit, like I'm not even your son, and his dad is just like... So anyway, about that thing that we weren't talking about yet, let's talk about that now.
Yep.
And so then the oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
Fucking Pycelle shows up after they dismiss the armor. Ugh. And he has news. And it's news from the wall. And it is the first is a letter pleading for new men because, shit is really, really, really going poorly up north.
Yes.
And then he even comments that, we haven't heard from Mormont, and birds came back with no messages, and that can't be a good sign. I love how this keeps coming up. That we talked about it, people are going to start getting these birds with no messages, and I hope that they, realize that is in itself a message. And it turns out that it's true. It doesn't cause them to act any better, but they do get it.
It's the same as calling somebody, and for days they just never pick up, and then finally their voicemail is full, and you're like, ooh, something happened. What's going on? You know what I'm saying?
So they decide, well, I say they, but it's Tywin. Tywin decides what we need to do if Mormont is dead is tell the folks at the wall that we can't help them right now because we're busy fighting this war against usurpers. I love, too, that Mormont's letter is just basically like, anybody who's a king can help me. I don't care which one of y'all it is. And Tywin is just like, see, I should ignore him just based on that. And Pycelle has to be like, listen, they're really far away. They don't get the news. They don't hold that against them. They don't have any idea what's happened. His fucking big plan is we're going to tell them that we can't help them now, but we'll help them when we can, and we'd be more prone to help them if there was someone in charge that we could really trust, who could give the men at the wall the discipline that they're going to need now that Mormont is gone. And, just keep us abreast of what's happening. And tell my friend, by the way, Janos Slynt, that we really miss him. And we hope he's doing well.
I cannot with that. I swear to God, you guys. Look, first of all, it's just Janos Slynt is a piece of shit. So, first off, it's that. But also, I think about how easy it would be for an innocent little soul who doesn't know any better to miss this messaging. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was once a very innocent little child, and then being like, oh, it would be cool if there was somebody we cared about. Hey, say hi to my homes for me. And I would just be like, oh, so your friend says hi. And I would not pick up on the fucking, ulterior message that is supposed to be happening there. And I am sure they will, but I think about that sometimes. Because this happens, you get older and you start to be like, oh, there's a double meaning.
Yeah. The thing that they're saying out loud to my face isn't really the true intent behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then there's the fact that I don't know. We haven't been back to the wall. I am dying to know what the men think of Janos Slynt. Like, if they hear that he is the one that's being set up here, are they going to be like, fucking really?
I really hope so. I don't know, but I really fucking hope that they're all like, no, the fuck we're not about to do that.
Yeah, I really want to see their reaction.
And then Tyrion is like, wait, no, that's a terrible idea. And this has to be really especially sucky because Pycelle shows up and that was, that's another like fucking thorn for Tyrion. This is someone else that he handled but didn't really get rid of. Like, he's thinking to himself, I should have killed him when I had a fucking chance. Mm-hmm. And now they are back in a position of some power while Tyrion's power is diminishing. And then same with Janos Slynt. Like, he got rid of him, but maybe you should have fucking killed him. Mm-hmm. Because now his father is being able to exploit that person and use him as well. And it just feels very much like Tyrion probably should have played the game a little bit harder.
Yes. Yeah.
But then, does he remain who he is if he had done those things?
That's
like,
the question.
Yeah, that's the question, right? But yeah, it's a lot of like fucking loose ends that he didn't tie up, showing up to like stick it to him. And it's really unfortunate, and I hated it for him.
Yeah, because it's the illustration of like, we like Tyrion because he tends to be more merciful, and then it doesn't serve him. The thing that we like about him winds up being what bites him in the ass. And it just sucks. It sucks.
It's a real fucking campaign for savagery, I'll tell you what. It's really making me think about some things differently.
Oh, I love that. That sounds like a good tour name. Like
a campaign for savagery?
Yeah. It'd be like the On the Run tour that Beyonce did, but a campaign for savagery. I like it. It's got a vibe.
All right. Let's just all consider that TM'd.
Mm-hmm. TM.
So he tries to like talk his father out of even trying to start this whole thing with Janos Slynt, and his father obviously does not give a fuck. And Tyrion is like, this guy is hollow. He has no loyalty. He is only loyal to the highest bidder. And Tywin is like, those are all excellent points. I don't see what the problem is here.
I hated that. As soon as Tyrion said he'll just go, like, whoever pays him the most, I was like, Tyrion, look who you're talking to. What do you think he's going to say to that?
That is not the argument for Tywin. That is not. That is, that's just sealing the fucking deal. And I think that's pretty much most of the, we have a whole thing with Tywin about not having Sansa pregnant yet.
Right.
Yeah. And Tyrion is sort of mortified that this news has reached his father. This is not something that anybody wants to talk about with their dad, I think, under any circumstances.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right. And Tyrion says something like, his dad says something real shady, like, that makes you happy? Well, I hope that you try to get happiness. What does he say?
I don't know what...
Here it is. He says his dad asks him, Tyrion says, I'll find the money when they're talking about the coin. And his dad is like, yeah, you will find it. And I hope you find your wife's bed, too. Mm-hmm. And that's how the conversation starts. And Tyrion is thinking to himself, like, he's telling me find the bed with my wife, and she's a child. So he's right back into that space of being like, this is wildly inappropriate for me to be with her in that way, and that he has no interest in it. And Tywin says she's old enough to be Lady of Winterfell, and you better claim her maidenhood, or you will be... it doesn't threaten her. He just says you need to get her pregnant so we can get Winterfell, so we can get the North. And then says if you don't consummate the marriage, it can be set aside.
Right.
Which is, I guess... I don't know, man. That's still true, too, by the way. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That's still like, law. It's so weird. And Tywin is just like, you need to get this done. And Tyrion tries to be like, what fucking sept is going to set aside the marriage? You basically control them. Like, who is going to do that? That's not a real concern. And I thought that was a really good point.
For
a moment.
Okay.
To be clear.
Okay.
Like
okay.
in this moment of King's Landing with Joffrey on the throne, that is a good point. There's nobody in King's Landing, especially none of the Septs, that are going to come up and like try to undo this marriage. However, the moment that they fall, then it could be a real concern.
Yeah.
Right? But, and this is probably not true in this universe, but in my mind, if they fall, it doesn't fucking matter anyway. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly true. Well, it looks like he might not be screwing, but he's gonna get screwed.
Oh my
Am
God,
I right?
Ma'am.
Am I right? Hey,
take my wife, please.
Oh God.
So that, and then that's how they end up segueing into the conversation about when Cersei is going to get married, and we find out not only did they say no, but Cersei doesn't know.
Yeah, and Tywin is like, you are not going to say that to her. Oh,
I want her to know so bad.
I know.
Please tell me that she finds out like immediately. I need to watch her navigate the fury and rage at being rebuffed while she is simultaneously relieved that this marriage that she has no interest in isn't going to go forward.
Yeah, I really do want to know, like, because he says, like, you're not going to tell her, and I'm like, okay, but what would you do to him for telling her? Because it might be worth it. That's all I'm saying, is that whatever you are thinking to punish him with, I might still be thinking of doing it just for the fucking personal satisfaction. What, you're going to yell at him? You don't fucking like him anyway. Who cares? You're never going to, like, not yell at him if you get the chance.
I guess you could send him away, like send him to the wall or something. That's probably the worst punishment, right? He's not going to kill him. Is he going to kill his son? Is Tywin capable of killing his son?
I think he's capable of it, but I don't think tactically he would, because it looks like infighting in the family, and that's a bad look.
I was going to say, I think that he would be willing to do it. The only thing that would keep him from doing it is that it would be unseemly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he has any moral objection to killing his son, you know? And if there was a way he could do it that didn't get tied back to him, like a burner account, he would do it in a minute.
Exactly.
If his hand was forced. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
I really like this burner
curious.
account that we've got. Like, I like that this is the thing that we can keep going back to and being like, yeah, you know, like that. I'm gonna keep that as our little analogy for him. He's like a bot. He like employs bots. You know what I mean?
He really does, though.
I feel like that's the thing.
That's how he rules, you know, from behind the scenes. You know, he's not even king. He's just hand, but he might as fucking well be.
Yep.
And he's got, you know, all these little bots out doing his bidding, sometimes doing his dirty work or whatever, but out there acting on his orders. And he can just sort of sit back and with what looks like clean hands. I like this too. So yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything that they talked about in that chapter. I don't think we missed anything.
No, except we might miss that bus that's pulling up.
My girl, we talked for so long before we started recording. Did you hear like the leaf blowers and shit outside?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we talked through that and they went away. Because like the door is shut, the windows are shut, and it was still so fucking loud.
Ugh, you guys, my dream is to one day have like a budget to give my co-hosts and myself some actual like insulation and make things a little soundproof, at least an area. Someday.
Years ago, when my husband was participating in a now defunct podcast, they would record at an actual recording studio because they had the resources and knew people that owned recording studios. And the sound was so good. Like having a real, like a full-time professional sound engineer, like record your podcast. Like, girl.
I wish. This is the thing about like recording remotely also, is that I can't do that for myself and have it work for you.
Exactly.
Our sound is only as good as your sound. So I would have to get something set up with you using a recording studio on your end.
When we all just live on the compound,
yeah,
then these little minor trifling details will be no matter.
The compound sounds so like foreboding. It's just really yikes.
It'll be when it happens. It'll be the second time I've lived someplace called the compound.
Oh my god! Right. Now I'll have to ask you for some tips on how to set that shit up, and you'll be like, "I hate saying this, but you're gonna want to plant potatoes."
No, that was the cult. The compound was an entirely different situation.
Oh my god! What? Who's that? Have you told this story?
Not on the podcast.
Y'all.
The compound was before the cult.
I don't even know. I don't know what to say anymore. All right.
I am a ridiculous person. I fully admit it. It makes no sense. My life has made no sense. It's made no sense.
That's amazing.
But anyway. All right, so Samwell Tarly.
Indeed. Yeah, this poor bastard. Man, he is in a bad situation right now.
Yeah, I was wondering when this was coming, if it were coming. I got a little turned around because when they are leaving the wall, you know, they stopped at Craster's, and I was like, oh, this is it. And then it wasn't it. And I got completely turned around. So when this chapter starts and they're back at Craster's, I was just like, hold up, wait a minute. And then I had to like get my shit together and realize like where we were in the story and everything. I was like, oh, that's right. They had to swing back by.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where if you like think about the overall what we've got going on here, Craster really should have anticipated that the men that you're like denying the same food that you and your wives are eating right in front of their faces when they are starving to death and injured, but there's more of them than you.
That he does not see this coming.
No.
Is the result. It is what happens to men who get to enjoy power for so long that they then suddenly believe that no one will ever rise up against them. He has been living and abusing these women and these children for so long. He has had visitors before. We know that he's had visitors. And they've probably only been handfuls at a time. And he also has been taking advantage of guest rights.
Yes.
You know, he understands the way that this world works and has been exploiting that and just figured that this is how it was and that no one would ever be like, you know what? Fuck you. And your potatoes.
And your potatoes, sir.
You know? And so, yeah, like it's when you think about it, it is unbelievable that he would behave this way when he was outnumbered by so many men who are armed. Also, men who are, like it's been said over and over and over again, these are not, for the most part, honorable fucking men. You know, these are thieves.
These are the dregs of our society.
Rapists. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he was still, like, stuffing his face in front of them and denying them and mocking them, and then was surprised. He's like completely caught off guard that they were just like, you know what? Nah, fuck that. You hate to see it, except for a terrible person like him. Then you love to see it.
Love to see it. Honestly, it's the kind of thing where, you know, he does that despicable good writer thing, where he gives us what we want which is Craster being fucking stabbed to death, but he has to season it with Jorah or J.R. Mormont being stabbed to death as well, and make it so that it's no fun at all, and kind of ruin it for us.
He, another thing too about Craster is that, and this is the point too about, and this is really gendered, and I wish that I could express it better, but he has been outnumbered in his own home for what appears to be decades.
Yes.
Right? And yet still managed to wield complete and total control of these women. They never got together and decided to slit his throat in the middle of the night, which I, for the life of me, feel like that should have been first on the list of to-do things.
Listen.
But he, that's how he, and so that, his ability to do that made him believe he could just do that regardless of the audience, regardless of who it is he thinks that he is being, lording power over. He just high on your own supply.
The thing that I want to know is, what is he bringing to the situation? Because everything that we hear is him sitting on his ass, bragging about bullshit, while the women do absolutely everything.
Well, I mean, it's not like that is something that we don't see, in real life. There's, something to be said for the violence that you can enact on people. And then you also probably have to have people, in his case, he probably had to have had a lot of accomplices, a lot of women that did his dirty work for him, women who had been with him for so long that they end up sort of fusing identities, and then that he probably didn't have to do too much policing.
I just mean, like, if they, because, one could say, well, maybe they just didn't know what they would do if they didn't have him. But when I step back and, like, look at what he provided, I don't even really know what he was doing.
That's what I mean, too, right? Because, like, to think, what are we going to do if he's gone? Y'all got a whole-ass farm. Y'all will be good. You've been doing all the work anyway, right? So it is that control that often it's men over, non-men, but not exclusively, where it is just so psychological,
Yeah.
That from an outside point of view, you just be like, it's fucking 30 of y'all to one of him. What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly.
But from inside, it must feel insurmountable. It feels like it's forever and that it's ancient. It's always been like this. I look around, I see nothing but women who lived exactly like me. I look forward, I see nothing but more babies that are going to live and be treated exactly the way I was. This is, this is forever. It's like when we talk about in an outside sense, like when we talk about imagining, like right now in this country, we are reeling from relentless attacks to our personhood and our liberty and on and on and on. And it becomes like you can't imagine any other way, right? Like, what do we do? How do we get out of this? But then it's like, how many millions of us are there?
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to change.
Seize the means of production.
But here we all are.
Yeah.
Just like the Craster wives. Here we all are.
That's true. They keep us from organizing.
Yeah.
Probably he doesn't let his wives talk to each other.
Girl, he don't. Mm-hmm. He don't. And I'm sure like I said, I'm sure that there are, I don't want to call them traitors, but I'm sure that he has wives that, extend his rule, that are his ears for him,
Oh, yeah.
That would dime out if any of the wives were trying to organize or plot or escape or anything, And then that sort of the fuck feeling of being trapped and no way out becomes your whole world. Then you lose imagination. It becomes difficult to try to imagine anything other than what you're currently living in. And this is how I feel right now, anyway.
Yeah.
And like low key, I'm waiting for somebody to show up and like slit this country's throat for me, so I have a chance. But it's not lost on me that the people who show up and slit his throat, the first thing they fucking do is get to raping.
Yep. Yeah, they didn't kill him because it was the right thing to do. There's a whole thing with Sam thinking about how they all just, like, turned their heads when he started beating on this, like, little girl because it was not their business. It's not until they just decide we want what you have that they decided fucking do something.
And to the last moment, Mormont jumps up to defend him. Not because Craster deserves defending, but because of guest rights.
Yeah.
And actually says something like, you've cursed us all. Because that's how serious it is, right? He doesn't jump. Mormont, who from all appearances seems to be a sort of morally righteous gentleman, you know? Sort of, I
don't
guess.
know why that phrasing sounded so funny to me, but no,
but,
yeah.
You know, but he doesn't step in at any point when these women are being beaten. You know, he turns his head as well because it's not his place to tell Craster how to rule his own home. Yep. So this chapter it's a lot of Sam. My poor Sam.
Poor Sam.
I love this conversation he has with I think it's Gren. Because people are calling him Slayer, and it is like a dagger in his heart every time someone says it. And a lot of the times people are really making fun of him. But I was reading this and I was like, but it's true though. Why are even if they are fucking with you, right? You know it's true, and you're not the only one who knows it's true. But for Sam, it is nothing but an insult. It is just another example of how they don't respect him. He doesn't deserve respect. And when he tries to talk to, is it Gren, or I might have the wrong person?
No, it's Gren.
And Gren is like, but you are the Slayer, though. You know, and it doesn't matter if they mean it as an insult. And Sam is like, well, when they call you, I forget what it is, but they call him something.
Oryx. Yeah.
And Sam is saying to Gren, like, you didn't like that. And he goes, well, no, I didn't like it when Alistair called me that. But if you or John or Ed wanted to call me that, you know what? I think it would be okay. And that is such a quick moment, but it is such a really insightful thing about, like, nicknames and terms of affection amongst people that you trust. And how those same words can be violent when they come out of the mouths of people that you don't trust, who don't care for you. It was just a nice little moment. I really liked it.
Yeah, I really like the fact Gren, he says something about how, like, you know, they make fun of me, he was using it to make fun of me. He was using the name Oryx to indicate that I'm an idiot. I feel like it's really easy for me to sometimes forget that Gren does have insights, because he can be portrayed as so dense that, like, you know, they'll be making fun of him and he'll be like, yeah, that's right. Wait, you know? So it coming from him in particular, and the sort of innocence around it, that it's the kind of person that if you speak to, you know that it's not going to occur to them to just lie to make you feel better. They are really just going to tell you how they feel about it and the way that they see it.
The thing I love, too, about him that really fits with what you're saying right now is when he's talking to Sam about that nickname, and he says something like, well, they were trying to use it as an insult because I'm big and I'm dense. And then when he's talking to Sam, he's like, but you know, I am pretty big, though. I'm getting bigger every day. And meanwhile, Gilly is having a baby in the background. So this is happening with, like, these wails and, you know, in the background of Sam's thoughts, like this constant shrieking and crying, and other wives, like, sort of coaching her through birth. And it just adds to the atmosphere of just things coming to a boil, it feels like, you know?
Yeah, and fucking Craster keeps yelling about how she needs to shut the fuck up, or he's going to go up there and give her the back of his hand because he can't stand it. And how he had a pig that gave birth to 6 or 8 piglets and never made a sound.
And he keeps referring to himself as a godly man throughout all of this, right? He keeps talking about how he's safe because he's a godly man and he doesn't have to worry about when it gets dark or when it gets cold. And he's told Mance that as well, that like, I'm not afraid to be out here, because I'm a godly man. And I'm gonna say something, y'all. Actually, I don't have to. I think you know.
You know I know, baby. You don't have to say it, 'cause I know. This is my new hit. For the what was the tour name that we had?
Oh, the Campaign of Savagery.
Yeah, I'm going to put this in my postcard ideas, the Campaign of Savagery tour poster. Campaign of Savagery. I'm trying to keep track of this stuff, guys, because I'm so bad at, like, saying that something would make a good postcard and then never recording that anywhere except on the actual podcast. But God forbid I go listen to that.
And just hoping that somebody mentions it in a comment.
100%.
Screen share later.
Yep. 100%.
The other thing, too, I want to mention about Craster and being a godly man is this refrain that comes from the Night's Watch people in Sam's mind and Mormont, is that Craster is a friend to the Watch.
Yeah.
Right? So that also excuses what a shitty fucking person he is, you know? And again, feel like I don't really have to say much about that.
Yeah.
Y'all know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, how we fucking turn a blind eye to shit that we know is fucked up because supposedly the person is an ally to us in some manner, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
So, so Sam is also, which adds to the just fucking heaviness this whole chapter, for the bulk of it, he is tending a dying man.
Yeah, this dude has, he had some injury that caused his, like, limb to go septic, and they, like, cut it off, but it apparently was not enough.
Yeah.
And that shit is just rotting, and he keeps saying how he's cold. And it's this very slow, agonizing march toward death.
Yep. And Sam is just watching. It's futile. He's trying to feed him, and the guy can't even, like, swallow soup. It's all just running down the side of his face. And Craster is just constantly like, kill him. He's already dead. You should just kill him. Why are you wasting your time and wasting the food? Just kill him. And Sam is just, well, couldn't do that, I don't think.
No,
anyway.
I don't think so.
But also seems to just be, I don't know. At first, I'm going to be honest, at first I thought Sam was working so hard because it felt like it meant something. Like, oh, if I can just save this one guy. But I don't think that's really what it is. I think it is a way to be distant.
Yes.
From what is happening in the immediate. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds shitty to say, but it's like low-key just a distraction.
This is, me just deciding that I'm not going to deal with emotions and I'm going to book some extra fucking episodes this week or something. Like, you just keep yourself busy so that you don't think about the absolute horror show of everything that's happening, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I do love to, like back to his conversation with Grin. At the end of it, he's just like, because Grin is like, isn't the Slayer better than Sir Piggy? And Sam says, why can't I just be Samwell Tarly?
Yeah.
And he's also grappling with this, he doesn't want to take any credit for killing the White with the dragon glass. And he's actually just being like, it wasn't me at all. Like, I shouldn't get credit for that. Which is just another illustration of how much he doesn't value himself.
Yeah.
And cannot give himself even the slightest bit of credit, you know. Then Mormont wants to talk about the dragon glass. Oh my God, when he calls for Sam to come talk to him.
He says, you're man of the Night's Watch, so you better learn to not shit your pants every time I look at you. I found that pretty fun.
It was
Sam.
He's just like, me? Me. And then the fucking raven is just like, me. So there's he wants to know about like where it was and where they got it from and where they can get more. And Sam tells him again that there's a big cache or cache buried.
We always do this.
We do this every time, right? There's a big, it's buried at the fist, and Mormont has this wonderful moment of just being like, so to get to the thing that saves us from the things, we have to go through the things that we can't fight, because we can't get to the things that we need to save us from the things.
Yo, dog. But yes, indeed. That is the situation. And, the people who saw it happen aren't enough to convince everybody else that it was the dragon glass. This was the thing that really got to me because that feels so real. You have a bunch of witnesses that saw what the fuck happened. You know that you have tried your own damn weapons and it hasn't worked. And this dude successfully got rid of one, but because of who he is and the fact that you think he's pitiful, you're going to ignore the rest of the evidence pointing to the fact that, yes, this thing works and works really well, and maybe we should actually try and find more of it. People are like, no, I've got my steel dagger and I don't need anything else. And I'm just like, how are you this? But they are though. Yep. People are.
Yep, it's very, very, very true. Like, we've all, especially after the last couple of years, we have all been able to watch this in real time. And I think it's fair to say we have seen that it leads to nothing short of disaster.
Yep.
And yet we don't change our behavior at all. I love this moment, too, with Mormont, where he is, when he's talking to Sam about the dragon glass. Poor Sam. It's just like, it's not my dragon glass, it's John's.
He just wants to distance himself from fucking everything.
Doesn't want any of this at all.
Yeah.
And Mormont kind of, in a moment of just, I don't know, maybe exasperation, is just like, fuck, how do we not know that?
Yeah.
And then he's like, but you know what, but we must have known it at once. And then we have forgotten ourselves, Mm-hmm. And he says that the wall was made to, he says you don't build a wall 700 feet high to keep savages out.
Yes. I loved this realization of just like, this all makes sense.
Yep. And it's like, it's late. It's too late for Mormont to come into this realization. But, the wall was made to guard the realms of men and not against other men, which is what the wildlings are when you come right down to it. I love that. When you come right down to it, when you get past all the fucking propaganda, right? They are just other men.
Yep.
And he goes on to say, too many years, too many hundreds and thousands of years, we lost sight of the true enemy. And now he's here, and we don't know how to fight him. And bitch, whew, listen. And now he's here, and we don't know how to fight him. Anyway, I'm sorry. That just hit different.
Don't be sorry. Don't you dare apologize to me.
So then there's some conversation about, like, where does it come from? What do we know about it? And Sam is just like, gives him a little bit of history. And then Sam mentions the children of the forest. And Mormont's like, well, they're all dead because we killed them all.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He was really coming up on it. Mormont was, like, really about to just have that, what do you call it, galaxy brain moment?
Yeah.
And then everything turned to shit.
I had you watch that one episode of What We Do in the Shadows. I'm going to spoil a little bit of an episode from, I think, the beginning of season 2 it is. But there is an episode of that show where there's a ghost in the house. And, like, half of the vampires, the fucking vampires that live here, that are vampires, that have introduced us to werewolves and, there's a Babadook at one point, but they're all like, ghosts aren't real. Ghosts don't exist. And they just decide that's where they're going to draw the line for whatever reason. And eventually it turns out that not only are there ghosts, but because they are all technically dead, there are ghosts of themselves.
Oh my God.
But I just really love any time that there's a sort of like bit about how we believe all of this insane shit, but God forbid that we pretend this thing is real. And it's very much lampshaded within the episode where they're like, familiar is like, really, guys, this is what you think isn't real? Are we really going to sit here and say this? Like, it's pretty fun. So yeah, this whole thing of like, oh, well, the others may be back, but the children of the forest, forget them. Dead, they're gone.
There's a moment, I think it was in Buffy, where there's a moment like that, where there's like all this talk of supernatural beings and powers, and then somebody is like, oh, but the Loch Ness Monster, that's totally fake. Like, nobody would believe that. I think it's from Buffy. It could be from anything. But yeah, I like those little moments. I love that the vampires have ghosts of themselves, because you know what? Yes, of course. Like, yeah, that would be a thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's really, one of them, their ghost is like extremely disappointed in what she's chosen to do with her life, and the vampires that she's hanging out with are such losers. And she's just like, what? This is what you're doing?
I died for this?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good time. But anyway, all right. And it's just like there's so much in these that feels like it's applicable to real life in ways that I just don't want to like even deal with because it's too much. But like even him yelling at his wife for screaming while she's giving birth.
Uh-huh.
Did you see this whole thing about Elon Musk and Grimes on Reddit?
I did not.
Okay, so this is one of those things that is like, it is not substantiated beyond the shadow of a doubt, but it's the kind of thing that it just feels like the evidence is, okay, it's circumstantial, but it's a lot of circumstantial. But basically what it comes down to is there is a person who had been posting on Reddit about their shitty relationship, and they posted enough personal information, like birthdays and ages and like, you know, the overall living situation and the date of pregnancy and whatnot, that all lines up exactly with Grimes's pregnancy. And this person was posting under a different name, but everybody is pretty sure it was her. And the posts were all about like, how do I handle my partner who has told me that I am being lazy after giving birth because I'm not cleaning up the house enough? Or how do I handle the fact that I went on a message board that he is on, and he is in there talking to a bunch of fucking incels about how women are catered to when they're pregnant way too much, and that we could be doing a lot more than we are. But all I am trying to do is like sit around and not, you know, take care of my responsibility. And it was like a bunch of posts like that from this one person, all circulating around the idea of a guy who is a huge misogynist and extremely dismissive of women and their like pain and what they go through. And just look, I'm just saying Elon Musk is Craster. That's all.
I can't, my brain shut down at the sentence where he's complaining about not getting enough help around the house when he is like a billionaire. What do you need your wife, pregnant or not, to clean?
I'm paraphrasing, so I don't even remember if it was cleaning or if it was the fact that she was just down.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't even remember, but it was
probably
just
about
overall
fucking.
like. It might have been, to be honest. It may have been, because that's a huge thing, as guys being like, well, we're barely having sex anymore. And it's like, yeah, that's wild. Who could imagine why that would ever be? But there's a... Go on TikTok and you can find out more information about Grimes and Elon Musk.
I have to be honest, I don't know anything about Grimes except that that's the mother of his children, or a child. I forget exactly details. I think that she's also maybe a performer.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about her. I don't
really either. Otherwise,
I am baffled that somebody would sleep with him.
Same.
I really am. I mean, I know he's a billionaire, but every time I see his face,
yeah,
it is just not a fuckable face. I'm sorry.
It's a fuck upable face.
That it is. So at one point, Sam loses himself a little bit and says that maybe they could take the son.
Yo. Yeah, because Craster's like, you guys are eating all my goddamn food. I don't have enough for you. I'm about to have another baby that I gotta feed. And Sam takes this opportunity to just be like, well, we could take him. And Craster gets his dander up. And JR pulls Sam aside and is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What?
It's okay. No, it's no big deal.
What? What?
You called him Jorah?
Jeor.
Oh, is that his name? His first name?
Yeah, J.R. Mormont.
Oh, okay.
It's Jeor.
Oh.
That's the name, spelling of his name.
My apologies.
Oh, it's fine. But it is really confusing because Jorah is so similar, and that has come up for me a few times.
And just much more, it's much more used, right? Like hearing Jorah all the time. So then when I hear something that sounds like Jorah, I'm like, clearly that's a mispronunciation. And
it doesn't, like, Jorah just is a weird, it doesn't flow the way that Jorah does.
It sounds kind of like, never mind, I was going to make a really bad Superman joke. I will not.
Oh my God.
I will not do it, though. Consider yourselves. Consider yourselves.
Rashawn threw herself in front of her own bullet in a real moment of heroism and gravity defiance.
Remember me. So that ends up just being a mess. Craster gets like super offended at the mere suggestion that, you know, he can't take care of his son. Like, I'd give you my son. What? Everybody knows I sacrificed them to the whites in the woods.
I'm a godly man.
Give my son away for free? I would never. I only use my son to make deals with the devil.
God, that is pretty much like what's happening.
Right?
Take him. Don't fuck with me, though.
So it goes downhill after that. The guy that Sam is sending to finally does die. They burn him, and then we get some really uncomfortable moments where people are talking about how good he smells. I didn't care for that.
Sam's mouth begins to water because he smells like roasting pork, and it's so like grotesque that he just goes and vomits.
Yeah. And people are making jokes about if we had some applesauce, I'd be fucking his leg up right now. And it's just like, I get gallows humor, but also too much. Too much.
There is a line, everyone. I mean, I guess we have 2 chapters in a row where people are just like, yes, you could eat him.
Yes. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So they had told Craster too that they were going to leave the next day, and it is in that spirit that they have this sort of nice meal, right? Mm-hmm. Which is also a weird choice for Craster to be like, I know you've all been like suspicious, but now I'm going to just prove to you.
Yeah.
And they all start being like, yeah, he's got more than this. He's got a sheepfold, so that means he's got sheep somewhere, and he's got those sausages, and, you know, he had pigs when we were here the first time. Where'd all those pigs go? It must be a basement full of bacon, which, low-key, a basement full of bacon sounds dope.
I'm going to put bacon on my postcard for one of the band names. Campaign of Savagery tour poster, featuring basement full of bacon. And what was the other one you just said?
I think that was it. There was like sheeps and sheepfold but no sheep. There's all the... I don't think that's the only thing I said. It could be like a band name.
Yeah, this talk, we don't actually get any, like, information about how true their suspicions were.
We do.
I mean, they go and, like, raid the larder, but do we hear how much he actually had?
Well, not exactly, but one of the women that tells Sam that he's got to take Gilly and go says that the men are in the basement gorging themselves. So it doesn't say how much, but definitely implies that there was some shit down there that you could, like, go to town on.
Yeah, I assume that he has stuff because he's got these people to feed, but they have this, like, sort of idea in their heads of this, like, I just keep imagining, the dream sequence, like, harp playing.
Yes, it does go there. At one point, someone is like, and he's got to have 1 million apples because I saw a tree.
Barrels full of apples.
It does sort of spin out of control a little bit.
So I just really want to know, like, is it as much as they think it is? Or do they turn out to be kind of like, oh, this is it? Well, we'll still eat it, but I really did expect more.
I'm disappointed that we killed him and all we got was just a little bit of food.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're right. They're talking about barrels of apples. There's berries and cabbages and pine nuts and corn and oats and... Yeah.
Barley and just fucking...
One of them is like, as soon as we leave, he's going to bring a whole keg upstairs.
I love it. They just truly start to, I mean, look, I won't say that I haven't done this sort of thing when I've been maybe a little bit stoned, want a little snacky snack. But, they just really get a bit out of hand here with their expectations. That's all I'm saying.
It's like a fucking Homer dream is what it's like. When Homer has those fantasies.
I will not lie. I full on, when I said, like, the dream sequence harp, I was picturing Simpsons animation with it. 100%. Pine nuts.
When the Germans take over the power plant and they call Germany the land of chocolate, and then Homer goes into like a fugue state, imagining himself like skipping through a chocolate town, taking bites on the street signs and dogs that go walking by.
Homer.
But so then that's pretty much the fucking final straw. Is it this sort of getting themselves riled up with the all the food that he is hoarding from them and all the food that he's denying them, and then I think Craster stands up and like is offended that you would even suggest such a thing and tell everybody to get out, and then it starts and somebody's just like no, and then it happens super fast and one of the guys grabs him and slits his throat before you even know what's going on, and then we find out that because it happens really fast, then they kill Mormont and it like lickety split, like it's like two paragraphs barely, and then we find out that after those two deaths, which are like the big like whatever, that they all immediately turned on themselves. Yeah, and started killing each other, and then like some of them made way for the basement to go like eat all the food that they think is down there. Some grabbed women to go rape them, and Sam just sits on the floor with all of this chaos going on around him and has Mormont kind of dying in his lap.
Yeah, poor Sam has a dissociative episode.
Yeah. What did I say earlier about those? A dissociation, a vacation we can all afford?
Exactly. I put that on the list, guys. Don't you worry. Even though she didn't even say it on the air, I still had it on that list.
And as Mormont is dying, he tells Sam that you have to go and make for the wall. And Sam doesn't want to do anything but sit here and maybe die. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He doesn't want to make for anything. He wants everything to be over with because he has reached his limit as far as he is concerned.
And I really, it's easy to just be like, Sam, shut the fuck up and do the thing. But honestly, this kid is tired, and I feel it in my bones.
Yeah. And considering that he had very little internal combustion to feed off of, right?
That is a really good way to say that. Yep.
So he was already running on low. And he is spent at this point. Things that a different type of person would use to refuel themselves doesn't seem to work for Sam, right? A different man who killed one of the white with the dragon glass would be behaving entirely different.
Yes.
And it would lend itself to propping them up and making them feel like, whether they could do anything or whatever, right? It doesn't have that effect on Sam at all. Like, very little fuels Sam's belief in himself. It's that non-existent for him.
Poor Sam.
Yeah. And so he's talking to Mormont, who then passes right in his lap, and then one of the wives come over to him, and they say to him, oh my God, this part killed me. Sam is saying to Mormont that he can't go, that it's too far, that he'll never reach the wall, and all he wanted to do was sleep. He's so tired. He just wants to sleep and never wake. And he says, I'd sooner stay with you. I'm not frightened anymore of you or anything. And this is when the wives show up, and they're just like, well, you should be scared. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he says is, I'm not supposed to talk to you. We have orders. And the old woman says, well, that's done now. And this is when she says that the blackest crows are in the cellar gorging or up in the loft with the young ones, but you should go now. And then Gilly is there, and it's basically like, you promised that you would help me. And Sam just doesn't want any of this. He doesn't want any part of this. And these women kind of are the motivation to move that he doesn't have himself, that he couldn't give himself. Mm-hmm.
And like, similarly, I think a lot of us can relate to, I can't be bothered for my own shit, but if a friend of mine is in need, I am able to shift myself on their behalf a lot more easily.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like, I just don't want to, and I will lay down and die. He says something about how, like, I would like to be dead, and maybe if I stick around long enough, one of those guys will grant my wish for me. And I was
sure
like,
does.
Oof, kid.
Yep.
But, I know, right? But this moment of just, like, he made her a promise, and you were the one saying, well, take the kid with you and everything, or take the kid with us. Mm-hmm. Maybe this will be enough.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I love this is a moment of, like, culture clashing. Sam is just in such a state that he just starts to repeat, Mother have mercy, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And one of the women says, your mother can't help you.
I loved it. Because it could work
both
either
ways.
way.
Right, that's what's so great about it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, she says, you need to take that warm, big fur cloak that Mormont is wearing, take the horse if you can fucking find it, and get the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And Gilly is crying and begging, please, and she says, I'll be your wife like I was Craster's, please. She calls him Sir Crow. And she says, he's a boy just like Nella said he'd be. If you don't take him, they will. And then Sam is thinking they. And that's sort of like... And then it goes into this thing about the boy's brothers, Craster's sons, and that they are out there, and that they will be here soon, that they will come. And that's how it ends. And fuck, you guys. I will say, this thing with Craster and what he does with the male children wasn't really explored in the show. It was kind of like hinted at,
Yeah.
And then it was over and done. And I don't think, I mean, the show made the choices it made, and that's whatever. But the sort of goose flesh I got reading that little bit about the sun's coming was so effective. Like, I got like, ugh, you know?
I love it.
And considering that this was a chapter with like murder and rape and burning of corpses and everything, and that simple, the Craster sons, they're coming, they'll be here soon, was just like the heebiest of jeebies.
All right, hold on. I'm going to put that on the card. Heebiest of jeebies.
I don't think that can't go on the list. That's not enough.
Why not?
That's not an original thought.
Oh, no, it's not like the whole that's going to be one of the bands on the campaign tour poster.
Well done. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be, it's a great band. I've always said that's a great band name.
Okay, heebiest of jeebies, basement full of bacon. We'll come up with some other ones. People, if you feel like chiming in with some ideas, go ahead, and I will save them, and I commit to it. Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because, like, with the way that this affected you, this is the kind of thing where I understand the show doing what it does the way it does in a lot of cases. But I love the implications of him leaving his sons out and the talking around it and never actually explicitly seeing or hearing what it is. And there is something about them deciding to just show us the moment when the others come for the infant and do a whole thing that I feel like it was partially just meant to be service for the fans who have had their, feelings about it the whole time, and getting to see it is like, it's sort of a moment that probably we won't have it in the book. So, but I don't think it's like as creepy. I feel like you could even have done something like that scene, but not actually explicitly shown it. Maybe have the camera cut away, or have there just be sort of shadows approaching the spot where the infant is. Yeah. Or, there's all kinds of ways to handle it that I think wouldn't have been so on the nose.
Yeah. And I will say, and this might be like saying too much, I might be admitting to more ignorance than I should be comfortable sharing. But when that scene happened on the show, I was like, well, do they just eat the babies? Like they're coming to take the babies, but it wasn't, I didn't really get that they are sort of turned and exist, right?
Well, we get shown that though.
Did they show us that? I don't.
Yeah, they have like one of the others presses a finger to the baby.
Oh my god! And the eyes go blue, right?
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. You're fucking right. They did do that. Well, you know what?
That's how to cut that part.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. But it to me, it's just like, well, I guess it just didn't really hit me. In a real, like, it wasn't as creepy, I guess.
Exactly.
Because like once you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I do remember that. And it's just like the eyes go blue, and then it's like cut to black, and it's the end of the episode or whatever. But yeah, no, I fucking.
Yeah, it just, I don't know why, but I always am much more frightened by the things that I imagine than by the things that I am shown. And consistently, the movies that freak me out are the ones that leave a lot to the imagination and to suggestion and to implication. I don't want you to show me, because nothing you show me is ever going to be quite as fucked up as what I'm picturing. Just let my brain do half the work for you and take advantage of the fact that you don't have to do all the work. Yeah.
It's, I imagine like, there are some moments that we got on screen that were like super dope, and I'm so glad that they were included,
Sure.
So I won't personally say that my imagination will, always will trump it, and that they can never like meet the expectation. But I will say for me personally, it seems like my enjoyment of those moments tend to be when the scene is really spectacular. You know, when it's big.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and show it to me, because I want to see all of that on the screen. You know, like a Dracarys moment. Yeah, go ahead and fucking show me that. I'm here for that, right? But then in the sort of like maybe darker and a little bit more subtler moments, you know, those are the moments where I feel like you can pull back some and let us use our imaginations, and that will probably be a better experience. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, that's what I mean when I say about, like, scary movies and stuff. Like, I'm talking specifically about the psychological aspect of when you're trying to make spookiness.
Yes.
If you want me to feel unsettled or threatened, you know, if there's, like, a violence even, if it's not even spooky, but you just want people to feel like, oh, that guy is dangerous, don't show me everything he does that makes him dangerous. Let there be whispers about rumors of the things that he has done. Let there be a walking into a room with the relics of whatever he was just up to that are still there for me to see, to put together myself what the fuck probably just happened here. Those are the moments that I will run wild inside my head. But if you just spell it out, it limits everything in a way that is not as interesting. And I don't think, you know, it's obviously a different medium when you're working with, like, TV, but there's still a lot of the same principle there with letting people's imaginations work.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe I forgot the fucking baby's eyes turned blue.
Because, it's just sort of like, I think that there's so much in that show, too, that is, like, brutal. That honestly, a baby turning blue isn't really that big a deal.
I don't know. Like, I guess when it happened, I was probably just like everybody else, like, oh my God, wow, that's what's happening. But it didn't, I don't know, it didn't stick. And it definitely didn't. I don't remember anyway. I don't remember feeling like I felt when I read the end of this chapter, of just like the sort of ominousness of it, that these babies are given away, and it feels like it's final, and that's just a done deal. Like, there's no consequences, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea that, no, they come back. And also the thing, you know what else too? I don't want to harp on this shit about the baby and the show and everything, but I think one of the things too that really was so moving about the chapter is that there is a real understanding of the people at Craster's, of these wives, of exactly what's happening. And I remember in the show there was like, especially with Gilly, like being like deathly afraid of what's going to happen to her son because she knows what's up, right?
Right.
But I guess because on the show the relationship with her and Sam was so insulated, it was just like them. It didn't feel for me like, I don't know how to articulate it exactly. But it just, I don't know, something about all of them being like, yes, we know that this is what happens, and we know that they come, and that there is no stopping them, and you best be gone before they get here. I don't know, it just...
I know what you mean, though, because, like, the way that it's done, and it's understandable, again, but the way that it's done in the show, it feels a lot more like, hey, we are setting up a potential romance, because there's this girl that he noticed. And it makes it a lot more about her specifically than it is about the women at large and what they have had to endure.
I think that's it. Yes. Yeah. And I get, like, for storytelling, you sometimes you got to narrow it down. You got to focus in on like one character to be representative of the whole, right? But yeah, there's just anyway, I'm starting to repeat myself. So, but basically, I just really liked the end of this chapter. It was just like, ooh, yeah.
And I just, talking about things that the show didn't do well, this whole thing in the show is super gratuitous. I don't know if you remember, like, the aftermath of this, but the bad guy, who's the one who sort of is meant to have led the, and he's also sort of a stand-in for Chet, who has already died by this point in the book, but he's the one that was going to kill Sam earlier, and they just sort of have that be and that makes sense to me, to just have it be the same guy. But he's literally sitting on Craster's throne, drinking wine out of his skull, or like Mormont's skull. Because in what the most cartoonish, absurd thing I've ever seen. Like, first of all, you can't drink out of somebody's skull that easily. You have to do all kinds of shit to it to make it actually, like, hold liquid. Because there's all kinds of openings.
It's full of holes. It's full of holes.
And then, on top of how absurdly anime villainy he was, there's rape happening in the room.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yep.
And it's just so egregious and, again, so unnecessary. You can imply rape is happening and give me the same impression without actually having to have this low-key, I think, titillating moment of a topless woman bent over a table that feels much more to me like you're getting off on this. It does not feel like, look at the horrifying things these men have done. It feels gleeful. It doesn't feel like we are decrying this, And I don't know. The whole way they handled it that was one of the moments where it really turned a corner for me, and I started to be like, what the fuck, guys? I remember still, like, being angry not only about how it was depicted, but the reactions I saw of people defending that scene.
Yep.
And it seemed so obviously gross. And I was just like, how can you, like, really? You think this was necessary? Why? It's a lack of imagination is what it comes down to.
I am trying to think, like, in what we just read, right? And we know that there's rape happening because the women tell Sam that it's happening. And I think I know Sam says that after Mormont and Craster are both dead, then they start fighting each other, and he mentions what happened to this one and that one. There's like a quick line that says one of the guys had fallen from the loft and broke his neck because he was on his way up to get to the women.
Right.
And he mentions that, Ed and Grin had tried to, like, wake him out of his stupor to get him to leave. But there's never a moment of Sam being like, and I saw, right? So the rape scenes that we got in the show were off page in the book.
Yep. That's the one thing I'll say, is that while he has a lot of horrific shit happen in his stories, I don't think George R.R. Martin ever goes to, like, so far as to make things feel like we don't need to see that. He tells us just as much as we need to know, and then kind of backs away and lets it unfold for us in our head. And yeah, like, this dude's trying to get up there and rape them, and he breaks his neck. I wouldn't have mind seeing that. Let's watch a man fucking break his neck while trying to rape women, but I don't see you including that shit. And these dudes, like, trying to get Sam to leave. It's, another demonstration of, like, this sort of brotherhood that we have got going on, where they are trying to look out for him. It's a focus on a whole different thing. And the women later, they say, or the ones that are up with the young ones in the loft. That's all they say. They, we know what that means. We know entirely what's going on there. But they don't have to, like, spell it out. And we don't have to, like, hear screaming. It's just... It's just a whole different way of handling it that I think is a lot more respectful and conscious. Yeah. So, Anyway. There's a note. I'm sorry, Austin. I'm looking at his notes. He says a difference between the mutiny in the books and in the show. In the show, the mutineers set up residence at the keep and are killed by Jon and some other Night's Watch men. Oh
my God, I forgot all about that.
I had completely forgotten that that's the way that it goes. But yeah, because Jon, at this point, he's already at the wall, with them trying to get over. So clearly that's not going to be a thing. But, of course, they have to involve him again.
So they had Jon back at Craster's by this point in the show? Or does he swing by Craster's on his way after he leaves the Wildlings and they're still there and that's what it is, right? He comes by later and they have all still been there and that's when he kills them?
What Austin says here, killed by Jon and some other Night's Watch men who want to kill them before they can be captured by Mance's forces and reveal how bad the situation at the wall is. So I guess he's not with Mance yet at that point. So this all happens earlier in the show, like you were saying.
That I remember. Yeah. Like it happened much earlier in the show. Interesting. Well...
Welp indeed.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. No new patrons since last week. Sad face. Think about it, guys. Patreon.com/unspoiled. And I hope that y'all are enjoying the show as much as we are very angry a lot of the time, and I'm bad at remembering. And continue to stick with us.
Mm-hmm. We hope you're taking care of yourselves also. In this hellscape.
Indeed.
I hope that you are safe and that you have people around you that you can lean on and if you need it. And just try to take care of yourselves as we figure out how to be in this fucking inhospitable world that we find ourselves in.
We've got some channels in the Discord for Scream Into the Void, serious discussion, health and wellness, and you can definitely go in there and completely unload if there's something that you need. It's nice to have things divided up that way so that people who are ready to engage with that can choose those channels and go in there. And if you are just I would like to just pretend this isn't happening and look at cat pictures, there is a pets channel for you. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much. We love you. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.